Hey y'all, very sorry that this is tardy. This is an example of a 30-minute intro class that I might give in this context at work. So because I have set the scenario and set the stage for a 30-minute intro meditation class that I'm giving at work, my assumptions based on experience are that most people are going to be beginners without much formal meditation experience. And so my goals for this class are to make them feel comfortable, make them feel engaged and curious about what else I have to share, but let them walk away with a nugget, with something that they know, something they can do in practice. And so without further ado, I'm just going to jump in. I invite you to follow along with me in my notes so you can kind of see where I'm going and what my intentions are. Great. So, my acting debut begins. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for making the time out of your busy workday to spend some time with me and talk about and explore meditation. A little bit about me before we begin. As most of you know, my name's Eve, and I work over an XYZ department. And perhaps unbeknownst to you, I am a very dedicated meditator. For the past 15 years, I have been meditating and practicing yoga, but for the past 10, I've been really serious and working with a variety of different teachers. I've spent about 7 months total, cumulatively, in silent solitary retreat. And so I'm really excited to be sharing what I've learned with the people I work with and people everywhere. So very excited to be here. Thanks so much. So I just wanted to start by breaking the ice and asking you guys, when I say meditation or when you volunteer your time out of your day to come to a meditation class, what do you think of when you think of meditation? What do you think meditation is? Oh yes, Joe over there in the creative department. And somebody might say, Joe might say something like, oh, for me, meditation is just like, getting in the groove and the flow. It's like when I'm working on my art or I'm like trimming my bonsais, I really feel connected with everything around me. And it's like, I'm just in the zone, I'm in the flow. Great, Joe, that's awesome. Exactly. Meditation is about getting us into a space where we can be present with whatever is happening, with minimal inner chatter, and we can really just be with that moment non-judgmentally. So that's absolutely something we're looking to cultivate in meditation. Who else? And then somebody else might be like, for me, meditation, I've had experiences in yoga, and meditation just really helps calm my anxiety. I feel like after yoga, I can really just finally feel like I can just relax, like I'm not as stressed or worried. But when I've tried to meditate at home, it's really hard to feel that. So really, I just kind of do what the instructor says in a yoga class. But that's what I think of when I think of meditation, is finally being able to relax and let go of anxiety. Great. And that was awesome. Thank you for sharing that and being a little bit vulnerable and talking about having anxiety. I think we all have anxiety, a little bit of anxiety, living in XYZ city in today's modern world. Yeah, meditation has the benefit of creating an inner space that's stable, that's calm, that is beautiful. It's like working on your inner sanctuary. It makes sense that you're able to access that after a yoga practice, after working, energy through the body. But with training and with the right instruction, you can actually access that space anytime, anywhere, right? And so that's what I hope to be able to offer you. Great. So when I think of meditation, thank you for sharing your ideas. When I think of meditation, I go back to a definition that I hold, kind of the goals that I'm working toward when I look at my own meditation practice and when I am looking to encourage and support others. It includes several elements. The first is stable attention. So for me, meditation means attention that doesn't spontaneously move around everywhere. It's stable and centered. The second element that I'm looking to cultivate and grow through meditation is having powerful mental energy. So like the resolution of the mind is just bright and vivid, like not kind of dull or falling asleep. So there's this stable attention, powerful energy of mind, powerful mindfulness of those two working together. But there's also a sense of joy and of peace, right? That's the opposite of anxiety. There's a sense that everything is good and right. There's nowhere to go. There's no one to be. There's nothing to push away or nothing to pull toward. So I'm not feeling any kind of desire of like clinging or grasping or wanting something that's not here and now. And there's no aversion or resistance as well, right? So there's stable attention, powerful energy, joy and peace and radical acceptance of everything that is. So that sounds awesome, right? But for most of us, when we walk into a yoga studio or we kind of hear about meditation or maybe we look for instruction online, what kind of instruction do we get to arrive and kind of train the mind into that glorious state? We usually get something like, anybody? Just sit still and focus your attention on the breath, or focus on the breath and just empty the mind. Exactly, right? We normally just get this really basic instruction, right? Sit still, close your eyes, and just be present. Maybe focus your attention on the breath, right? And empty the mind. Or let thoughts pass by like clouds. Has anyone heard that one? Yeah, that's nice, right? Just let thoughts come and go like clouds. Let's see if we can work with this instruction. Just try it, right? So let's just see how our minds behave when we just sit down and try to keep our attention, let's say, at the tip of the nose. So we'll sit here for a minute. Notice what's happening. Okay, pretend that's a minute. Great, so, easy, right? How many people experienced stable attention, right? Yeah. No, yeah, your attention was going all over the place lately. Or maybe it was stable for a little bit and that was nice. But quickly a thought came across, or you heard, somebody talking over in the hallway, and then your mind maybe started to think about something else, right? Powerful energy. Well, we were doing that for not very long, but did anyone get tired or sleepy? Yeah, you just had lunch, so of course you're a little tired and sleepy, right? So for some of us, maybe we got a little anxious. Anybody get anxious just kind of sitting there trying to be still? Yeah. So meditation is absolutely something that we can all do, but it does require a little bit more of a nuanced understanding of how the mind works and kind of some more detailed instruction beyond what we ordinarily hear. That instruction isn't wrong. It's just not detailed enough for most of us to be able to take it and run with it. So today, in this short period, I just kind of want to introduce you to three things. I want to talk about three things, and then hopefully you'll come back and we can continue this conversation and we can practice together and have a lot of fun, and this will develop. But today, for this moment, this 30 minutes, I just want to talk about three things. The first thing I want to give you is some bad news, right? And that bad news is that you are not in control. You are not in control of your mind right now. And if that little exercise didn't prove it, I will prove it to you very soon. You're not in control of your mind in this moment. Then I want to give you, point two, I want to give you some good news. That even though you're not in control of your mind right now, you can still train your mind, right? So you can still work with the mind. You can still start to mold and shape your mind. So that's the good news. And then I'm going to give you, number three, I'm going to give you some tools to help you get started. And we'll talk about two really simple tools that we use in the beginning for training the mind. And that's it. All right? Sounds good? Okay, let's get started. So first is the bad news. You're not in control, right? You are not in control right now. So If you sit down and meditate and try to keep your attention on the sensations of breath at the nose, like we all just did, thoughts will arise. Sounds will arise in the mind. Sensations will arise in the mind. And are we in control over what arises in the mind in the next moment? Over the thought that we have, right? Are we in control of that creative idea that we just had and then turned into a pitch and sold to a client? Are we in control of that solution that just popped into our mind if we were working on an accounting program like Deborah over there and from our accounting department? No, we're not in control of our mind. We're not in control of our of what arises into consciousness, right? So let's talk about this a little bit. I'm going to use a really super simple framework that was actually kind of introduced into Western thought through Freud, but was around much earlier in Eastern philosophies. And that is the idea of the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, right? So to understand how you're not in control, we need to talk about the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. So the conscious mind is like a screen. It's just available space, right? The unconscious mind, and really it's not just one mind, it's many, many subminds. It's a whole network, it's a whole system. So these unconscious subminds throw information up into consciousness, right? And that's what we experience, kind of arising into our conscious experience. And all of those subminds are able to see what's thrown into consciousness. And so that's really important, right? Nothing that even the words that I'm saying right now, there's a feeling of being in control over what I'm going to say next. But really, if you start to examine that process with a really strong, refined mind, you start to see that you're not. This urge arises. Where does it arise from? It arises from the unconscious, right? So not only are you not in control, right, and you can examine and just kind of watch your mind for a little bit and discover that for yourself quite quickly. Not only are we not in control, but when it comes to meditation, our minds are actually wired and habituated for distraction. So that first element of, what is it like to have a mind that's trained in meditation? That first element was stable attention that's not, darting to and fro. But the untrained mind, the feral mind, is a mind that does move, where attention is moving spontaneously. But we need to understand a little bit about why. That'll help us to have empathy for ourselves and to be able to work more efficiently and effectively with our mind. So the natural untrained mind evolved to protect the mind-body complex that you could pass on your genes. And so we're wired to look for predators, look for danger, always be on edge, right? Because you're better safe than sorry. And that is an evolutionary biological truth. Better safe than sorry. I would rather you be anxious, worried, thinking about all different kinds of things and alive and passing on your genes than like happy and chill, right? Because usually the happy, chill ancestor, they got eaten, but the kind of nervous, on edge, I gotta be ready for anything ancestor survived, and that's why we're here today. So you're wired to always be looking for danger and always be looking for food and sex. And so those urges, like the desire for certain things, certain sense pleasures, and the, and the resistance and needing to get rid of other dangers are hardwired. And you can see that at work in how our thoughts manifest. Those are parts of our mind that are trying to protect us, trying to keep us healthy, happy, and whole the best way they know how. So really from an evolutionary standpoint, when you sit down in meditation, your mind is going crazy. It's thinking like, what are you doing? You're not doing anything, you're not doing anything to help you get food. You're not doing anything to help your social status, which will help make you more, make you more protected socially and will ensure your survival and like that you have access to really healthy, strong mates. What are you doing? You're sitting here, you're not moving, your eyes are closed, you're not falling asleep, you're this is ridiculous. So the mind system is trying to save you from this folly, this quixotic folly of meditation by lobbing all these other distractions and ideas. Why? Because they don't know what this meditation thing is about. They're not sold. They're not bought into it, and so they're actually trying to protect you. So in our experiment, when we sit down to meditate, we have all these thoughts and distractions. And if we are angry at them, we're like, no, we're trying to meditate here. I want to be good at this. And then worrying about work, remembering a meeting, thinking about dinner or your date arise, and you get angry. Really, we should be like thankful that the mind system is working so well, right? And we should be understanding that, oh, okay, you're just trying to keep me healthy, happy, and whole. You haven't realized or seen the benefits of meditation yet. So you're not sold, you're skeptical, fair enough, fine, right? But just understanding that that's how the mind works is so important. And the next thing I want to talk about is it's not only that this is coming from hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, it's also coming from, every waking moment of your life. Your attention, if you haven't trained your mind, your attention is moving spontaneously, and you're moving from objects of desire, like towards objects of desire. Like, oh, I want to get this promotion. I want to get, oh, this belt would look really good with that outfit, or oh, I want that dinner. You're wanting things that aren't here, or you're worried about things that you don't want and trying to figure out how do I get rid of this or that situation, or oh, I really don't want to be put on the spot, or that confrontation looks really bad, and so you're trying to figure out how do I get out of that situation. And most of our lives are spent like that, right? With attention moving either toward beautiful things or away from things that we find loathsome, fearsome, or scary, or uncomfortable, right? So we're not in control of our minds because underneath our subconscious, in our subconscious, we have all these sub-minds which are doing the best they can to keep us healthy, happy, and whole, working along the principles of desire and aversion, right? Because that's what's worked in the past, not only for us personally, but for our ancestors for thousands of years. Right. So, you're not in control of your mind. Subconscious sub-minds are tossing things up into consciousness, and you don't have any control of them in this moment. However, you can, point number 2, you can train the mind, right? And training the mind is all about understanding habits and how we create new habits. When you're training the mind in meditation, you're trying to do something that not only have you never done before, stabilizing attention on something as boring and non-valuable as the breath, right? I say that really without judgment, but it's boring and there's really not a lot of intrinsic value there based on the mind system that I just talked about. So not only are you trying to break, however old you are, years of this habit, you're going to sit down, close your eyes, be really still, and not fall asleep. You're going to sit down, close your eyes, and you're going to stabilize your attention on the riveting qualities of the breath, right? You're trying to break, for myself, 36 years of habit, right? But not just that, not just 36 years of habit, but 3,600, 100,000 years of habit of evolution. And so training the mind is all about creating new habits. You're not in control of the mind right now, but with practice you can influence the mind you're going to have in the future. So that's important. Like, I'm not in control over whatever the sub-minds are throwing into consciousness now, but I can be training the mind to respond differently in the future. And that's what meditation is all about, right? Training the mind is actually easy. If you think meditation is about making your mind be still now and making it do it now, it's going to be hard and you're going to be frustrated, right? Because you're trying to do the impossible. You're trying to control something that's unconscious, you have no control over. And so, of course, you get frustrated, and of course you think it's hard. But if you're lucky enough to hear this good news, or you're in a class like this, or you pick up the right book, or find a right teacher, you'll know that meditation isn't about making the mind do something today. It's about training the mind today so that over time, these conscious intentions, like the thing that you keep trying to focus on and you're trying to do, you keep returning and coming back to, over time, that becomes unconscious habit. That becomes your new second nature. And eventually, with a lot of practice and a lot of diligence, that becomes effortless. And we do have stable attention effortlessly. And we do have a bright, strong, vibrant mind naturally, because we've slowly worked to train the habits, in that direction. So remember, if it feels hard, you're doing it wrong. If it feels hard or you feel frustrated, you've lapsed into that false thinking that you're in control, and you need to check yourself and just let go of that, right? So that makes it actually easy. So you're not in control of the mind right now, but you can train the mind that you have tomorrow or in the future, right? And so how do we train the mind today, right? How do we work with the mind? What does that training process look like? In the beginning, I'm going to just focus on 2 tools. There really are only two tools that we have to train the mind. The first tool is conscious intention. Conscious intention. What does that mean? That means that you are going to consciously intend to place attention on the sensations at the tip of the nose. The ever-changing, very fascinating sensations that are changing moment to moment, changes in pressure, changes in temperature that are happening because you're breathing. So you're going to stabilize your scope of attention and just feel how those sensations shift and change from the inhale as it transitions to the exhale, and you're just going to stay there. Conscious intention says that's kind of your intention. So your intention to stay here is the very same conscious intention that you use if you're practicing your free throw shots in basketball, right? So you're going to work on your form and just see the ball going in and perform the action, and eventually over time, your shots start to drop, right? But when you're practicing, when you're a little kid or you're working with a little kid, practicing their free throw shot, you try to tell yourself, don't worry about where the ball goes right now. In the beginning, you're just working on your form. And that's kind of what conscious intention is like. I'm not worried about the result right now. I'm worried about my form so that eventually over time, I don't have to think about it. I'm just going to be like Steph Curry, So that's exactly what it's like to train the mind in meditation. If basketball's not your thing, you can think of darts, you can think of putting, you can think of anything else where you're trying to make something happen right now, kind of. But really, if you're just focusing on your form, you're not in control over whether the dart hits the bullseye or not, right? But the more you practice, the more that can become second nature, and you can refine that skill and get really, really good at it. So in meditation, the conscious intention is to observe the changes at the nose, invariably, because only a little part of our subminds think that meditation is a good idea, but the rest of it, the rest of the mind system is like, you're going to waste your time, you're not going to find a mate, you're not going to eat dinner tonight, you're not going to survive. The mind system can be a little primitive at times, right? Of course, you'll probably eat dinner and you'll probably have a nice roof over your head, but those worries and anxieties are built into us, and so invariably those subminds are going to say, hey, what are you doing meditating? We got to protect you. Here, worry about this, think about that, right? And thoughts will arise. But if we're smart and working with conscious intentions, that's totally okay, right? You miss a shot, you just keep going back to your form. You just keep going back to the intention to focus on the breath of the nose. Now, one really important thing, the second tool that we have beyond refreshing our intention, right? And just stay present, keep finding the sensations, keep looking, keep investigating, stay curious, stay engaged. Besides those conscious intentions that we can work with, we have positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement and conscious intentions. That's all we got. Now, the mind system responds to positivity, to reward. I like to talk about the process of training the mind. It's a hedonic process. The more pleasurable, the more joyful, the more at ease we are, the more that the mind system says, like, hey, maybe this meditation thing isn't such a bad idea. And voila, you turn critical, skeptical, subminds, being like, shouldn't we be thinking about dinner, into like, no, we can think about dinner later. This is great, right? And so positive reinforcement is a critical tool. So the minute that we catch ourselves maybe mind wandering or thinking about something else and we remember the breath, the best thing that we can do is to take that energy of remembering and celebrate that moment, because it's like rewarding the little puppy dog that finally is bringing us the newspaper and saying, oh, good dog, right? If we get frustrated at that moment, it's like the little dog finally brings us the newspaper and we're like, well, it's about damn time, and you hit it on the nose. And then it's like, I'm not going to bring you the newspaper anymore. That sucked. So it's really important to use positive reinforcement when working with the mind and training the mind. It's important to be empathic and understand the mind system as a whole and where it comes from. And so if we work together, this is something that we'll be talking more and more about, right? We'll be looking at, and the way that I described it today is pretty simple, but we'll be looking at how we're not in control of our minds, right? In the present moment, we'll be looking at different and more nuanced ways to work with the minds that we have. And we'll explore a lot more tools besides the two that I shared, but we'll explore tools that are appropriate for where the mind is in its development, right? So that things stay simple and we stay focused. Great. So I'm really excited to hopefully work with you guys. I hope you found this engaging and interesting. But before I talk about what's next, let's go ahead and do a take 2 of that meditation that we tried in the beginning of class. Only this time, let's work with conscious intentions and positive reinforcement, right? Okay, so go ahead and sit up nice and tall, put your feet flat on the floor, and close your eyes. This is only going to take 2 minutes. So let's just look at how this experience can feel different and be really different now that you have a little bit of background and some more nuanced instructions. Okay, so watch your attention move and become attracted to different thoughts or sensations. Just watch attention move all on its own. Then you're going to bring your attention to the body. Just feel the edges of your skin and then feel all the sensations in the body as you breathe. Try to let go of any tension. And then slowly move your attention through the body to the tip of the nose. And taking your mind like a hand, feel around the tip of the nose, almost as if you're an explorer, making a topographical map. So you're just moving and feeling around the tip of the nose. Get acquainted here. Maybe you feel the left nostril meeting the face. You might walk across the floor of the left nostril to the septum. Feel the wall of the septum and walk across the floor of the right nostril. Feel where the right nostril meets the face, and then kind of move up and toward the center along the right nostril. Feel the ball of the nose, where everything kind of comes together. This is generally where there's a lot of more nerves, more sensations that are easily available. And then go ahead and slide down the left nostril slowly until you meet the face. So this is your scope of attention, the sensations that are just outside the nostrils. Hold the intention to keep your attention here. But still try to be aware of the room, try to be aware of the rest of your body. And just see if you can follow the sensations at the tip of the nose as you inhale and exhale. And if your mind wanders, and it will wander, when you wake up, celebrate, enjoy, reward that part of your mind, that wanted to meditate, and just come back to what you were doing. Wherever you are, come back to the tip of the nose. Keep your attention anchored here, but just notice anything that feels good. Maybe it's just the energy of the room, the feeling of being alive, maybe a tingling on your cheeks. Just sit here for a moment in gratitude and relish anything that's pleasant. That's any pleasant part of your experience. And you can open your eyes. Great. So, thoughts. How is that different? How is that experience different? Yes. Oh, wow, it's so much easier to do that when I don't feel like I have to be in control of things. Exactly. Anybody else? Oh, it's like really nice and easy when all you have to do is just, intend to do something and then reward. Like, that was really great. I feel so much better. There's all this like guilt and judgment and stuff like that, and it's all gone. Awesome. I really like what you said about, feeling like everything is pleasant, pleasurable. Like, that's really cool. Like, I feel different. It was just a minute. Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. So next time, what's next is that we're going to dive into this in a lot more detail. I'm going to recommend a book to you. And that book is The Mind Illuminated by my dear friend, teacher, and mentor, Chula Dasa. I will send out an email with a link to that. For your homework, if you choose to join us, which I hope you will, I would like for you to sit for 5 minutes every day and celebrate the aha. Pretty simple, right? Intention and celebration. I recommend this meditation app called the Insight Timer. You can download it for free on your iPhone or on your Android. And I will create a meditation group for us so that you can see people in your group and talk to them. And then lastly, if you're like, when am I going to find 5 minutes to meditate? I don't have time. Number one, I don't really believe you. But number two, if you're that person thinking, I don't have 5 minutes, you can come meditate with me every day during lunch. I sit from 12:30 to 12:45 down in conference room C. So I'll be there and anyone can join. Just walk in and sit down and be quiet. There's no need to sign in. Anybody's welcome. I'll just be there doing that. You guys can come and join me if you like. All right? Thank you so much. Bye. Okay. So let's see. How did I do on time for that? Oh, that was actually pretty good. So generally speaking, what you might have noticed through that one is number one, because I'm in a work environment, I try to keep it more casual and secular in nature. Although we are talking about no self and no controller, like right there off the bat. But the context is very different. I try to weave in examples from what people are used to experiencing, whether it's like creativity at work or, use carrots that they find attractive. Productivity, creativity, being at ease, not being anxious, things like that. What else? I try to make things as interactive as possible, but also simple as possible. I'm going to tell you 3 things. Number 1, you're not in control. Number 2, you can still train your mind. Number 3, that's kind of awkward to do 3 and 2, so I might walk that back a little bit. But number 3, there's 2 tools that you use, right? Intention and celebration. Kind of really, really simple. So I didn't talk about attention and awareness. I didn't talk about, even though I used that a little bit in the meditation, I didn't talk about, what else did I not talk about? A lot of things. I tried to keep it as simple as possible, and I tried to create some kind of surprising hooks. Like, you're not in control of your mind. here, experience how you're not in control of your mind. I'll talk to you about why you're not in control of your mind, and then you're going to get to understand the good news that you can still train it, and here's how, and we're going to try that. So you get the before and the after. It's experiential. Hopefully people are, talking and whatever. But if I only had 30 minutes and I was in a work context, that's an example of something I might do. So I hope that you found that useful. Again, I'm very sorry this is tardy, and I look forward to chatting with you guys tomorrow at my 2 p.m., your Paris European time, 8 p.m. All right, thanks guys. See you later.